My name is Alexa Birdsong, and I'm the Director of Arts and Cultural Programs for the City Parks Foundation. City Parks Foundation is a private, not-for-profit organization set up to get people involved in their parks. And the way they do that is through programs, and I do all the artistic programming for parks around New York City.
How many parks does that involve?
Oh, I think New York has something like 1,200 parks, believe it or not, and we are in a great deal of them, over 100, yeah.
Every year you do the same thing, the same programs in the same parks?
Yeah, we create new programs sometimes. Right now I'm trying to develop a theater festival in some parks. In addition to the arts programming, I should just let you know, City Parks Foundation also does sports programming, education, and then advocacy for parks. So those are the other departments. I'm a rare bird because I've worked both in a not-for-profit situation and I've worked in a for-profit situation in concert business. And so here I am in a not-for-profit job, but I have all of the necessary for-profit chops that you need in order to compete, you know, in the show business industry. Compete for talent, compete for money, you know, yeah.
Just because it's nonprofit doesn't mean you don't pay everybody.
Exactly, everybody gets paid. Yeah.
Do you negotiate those deals?
I'm involved. I have staff. Like I said, I have a great staff here. So I have a talent buyer, and she haggles with them, and I give direction. I started out, oddly enough, working at a place that gave money to filmmakers, and we did a big, big, big event. And during that event, I realized that I knew how to make things happen. And I was like, wow. And from there, I started producing special events for not-for-profits around New York City. So if you need a fundraiser, I would, you know, put your fundraiser together. And I was like 26 years old. I don't know. I just did it. I liked it. Then I got hired by George Weins Festival Productions, and that's where my real training began. I felt like there I got a master's in concert production and corporate sponsorship, as well as in jazz. Yeah. So I learned a lot. They let me do anything and everything I could. I flew around the country producing festivals, Benson and Hedges Blues, Mellon Jazz Festivals in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, just Newport Jazz Festival I worked all the festivals, New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. As I came up as a production assistant and became a producer by the time I finished. I went on to produce Jazz at Lincoln Center. I was the first producer of Jazz at Lincoln Center with Wynton Marsalis. He was the artistic director. And I produced that for 5 years. I helped him build the program. And then I went independent and produced events around the country for different organizations. Evening concerts at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. I created the empowerment seminars at the Essence Festival. I worked Essence. I would do the seminars during the day and then go work the Superdome at night. It was crazy. The National Black Arts Festival in Atlanta. I was their music producer for about 6 years. There's a venue here in New York called Aaron Davis Hall in Harlem, and I produced music for them for a while, stuff like that.
How do you keep up with that?
And special projects with Cassandra Wilson. I also did a lot of projects with her. Yeah, right now it's the fall, so we have a skeletal staff, but I have an associate director, and he is my other brain, but he also oversees our site at Central Park. He handles what we call managed events. When I'm not using Summer Stage, I rent it out. And so he does that, and he works on, we put out a CD this year, and he managed that whole project. I have a director of dance and children's programs, and she books all our dance for us at Central Park when we do, dance programs, and she handles all my children's programs throughout the city. And also, I run a puppet theater in Central Park as well. She oversees that. I have a director of operations, and she handles all budget and monetary things for me, as well as liaisons with the Parks Department in an official capacity. I have an assistant, of course, who manages me. And I have a technical director who handles all the technical aspects of the production, lights, sound, gear, put the stage up, take the stage down, all of that. In the summer, it expands, and I'll have a marketing associate, press associates, publicists. It gets really big in the summer. CPF as a whole has a development team that works on raising the money. So I'm a part of that, but I don't generate it. I'm not the engine. At Summer Stage, we present 38. We produce another 12 for other people. City Parks Concerts is 30 concerts in 10 parks around the city. Charlie Parker's, that's another 2 days of concerts. So I do about 60 to 100 concerts a summer, depends.
Plus children's programming.
Plus children's programming.
And how many of those do you do?
Hundreds.
Really?
Yeah, like with the Puppet Mobile, the Cottage, where we present puppet shows, and then the performance series, it's about almost 200 programs a summer.
That's cool. Do you have any idea of the size of your overall audience? How many people you reach?
Whew.
Millions?
Not millions. Hundreds of thousands, not millions. We hit about 175 to 200 at Summer Stage a year alone. Well, everything was unknown. Everything was unknown, but well, the music sort of took care of itself because it hadn't been done before. But you still had to be creative, and you know, in the way you marketed or presented it to New York. What were we presenting? So we had to find an audience. In order to find the audience, we decided, well, let's do some concerts in every borough so that we'll have a presence in every borough. And so that was one interesting thing that we had to figure out. The other thing was just learning how to work with a big band, you know, on a constant basis. I had an orchestra, Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra. It was newly formed, nothing like it's ever been done in jazz before. So you're dealing with people who had never done this. And so just figuring all of that out, oh my God, we need music stands with the name on them, you know. Oh my God, you know. Also, what else was hard? It got easy once I found out we worked in Alice Tully Hall primarily, and when I found out who my 1,000 people were in New York City that would come, it got to be really easy. And I tend to think that way, like, how many people do you need and who are they? And how can you get to them? Production, securing a venue for your event, hiring the talent, renting sound and lights and whatever instruments the artists need. And then on the other side, you have to promote the event through marketing and advertising and pulling it all together, buying ads, getting ads produced, which is layout, knowing what all the proper information that you need on your ad or your flyer or your poster is, getting rights for pictures that you use so you don't get sued, you know, all of that. Yeah.
Well, how much in advance do you work?
I'm always working.
But if you have a concert on June the 1st, when do you start producing that?
June, May, April, March-ish, around March. March, April, May, 2 or 3 months, 3 months at the minimum, yeah. And it depends on what the event is. Now, at the other hand, I always say in this business, you give someone a week to do it, it'll take a week. And you tell them they got to do it in 2 days, they get it done in 2 days. I've learned that. Be on time. You can't work in this business but you know, you have to be on schedule. You have to run on time. Not just because of financial considerations, but just because at the end of the day, there's only so many hours in a day. And so the minute you get behind schedule, it's hard to make it up. And yeah, this business has a lot of people. It's people power, you know, so you want to maintain as much peace and calm as you can, and as little stress as possible, so that people can do their jobs effectively and the artists can work in a really serene kind of environment. So time is critical to, you know, really reducing stress. Stuff like that. Go to a community center or a church. Those are places that those are spaces that hold lots of people, generally, and so that's how you get your venue, and then you got to pick your artist. I would say pick the artist first, because that will determine the venue almost in many cases. Also, a lot of times, one of the things I used to do in college, or maybe when I got out of college, you can work at a bar and like, they'll let you take the door, and you know, you get a slow night at a bar, you present who you want, they'll let you take the door, and you pay the artist from that. And I did that a bunch. Persistence. You got to be a responsible person. You have to be a cool head. You can't be a hot head. and think you're going to get very far in this business. And you have to be curious. You have to be curious.
About music and artists.
About music, about what the audience wants. Yeah. Oh, and I don't program for myself. If I don't program concerts for myself. I have to program for the world. So, and I think people who program for themselves get in trouble over time.